Hello. I'd like to spend a few minutes with the viewers to talk about an important matter, which is how do we in national security field, in the private sector of course, deal with important elections, such as the midterms or presidential elections or other local elections, in the sense that in national security expertise, we don't involve ourselves in domestic politics. We don't choose political parties. We don't do campaigning. The only thing we do is to look at what is the component of national security that the candidates have and ensure that these candidates have the one we believe is the right national security and foreign policy direction for America, for the United States. So let me be very clear. If one is an advisor to a campaign, obviously they are going to be in support of the campaign to make sure that those candidates are elected. But if one is not in a campaign as an expert in national security, he or she will focus on the specific agenda of these candidates, should they be congressional, presidential, or at the local level, and make sure that the candidate is clarifying their positions with regard these elements. Now, we all know that in congressional elections, such as the midterms, the majority of subjects that citizens are interested in are domestic. The national security component is small. Now, even if that component is small, we need to ensure that these candidates from any party they come from, Democrats, Republicans, or independent, or other political parties, really fit what ourselves in the field of national security, regardless of what party we belong to, believe that these are the principles of foreign policy and national security that we need to ensure that the candidates have or do not have, so that the public can make their own choice. So to make it very simple, as we are right now in American national security, dealing with the war on terror, dealing with an engagement in the Middle East, dealing with the competition with China and Russia, all of the above, citizens should ensure that there is a consensus among the candidates that they're going to be choosing, at least about two matters. 2 points where we have a consensus, or we should have a consensus at least, because it's been about maybe 17 years, almost 18 years, that the United States has been confronting these challenges. Number one, in my view, is for citizens or voters to ensure that the candidates have a clear idea about the challenge and the threat that the Iran deal had over the national security of the United States. Obviously, the current administration withdrew from the deal, but maybe other politicians would like to go back to that deal. The simple mere fact that the Iran deal allowed that regime to receive about $150 billion, and that regime used these billions to buy weapons, to buy equipment, to send militias to a variety of countries, and also to develop missiles, that is a crucial matter of consensus. So we need to ensure that all candidates realize that the Iran deal, from a strategic perspective, was a threat to the United States and to our allies. Now, people could argue with me, but that is my view on the issue. So if you want to vote for any candidate, and that's full democracy, vote for whomever you want, ensure one thing, that those candidates understand the threat that the Iranian regime was developing through the Iranian deal. The second point, which is a much older one, which we've inherited from 9/11 and throughout the 17 years of US engagement in Afghanistan and Iraq, against ISIS, across Africa, but also all these dozens and dozens of jihadi attacks here at home. We had many attacks inspired by the jihadists, committed by the jihadists. So what I have been testifying about, briefing about, to members of the US Congress, the European Parliament, 2 times in a presidential campaigns, is basically that we need to identify the single most important component of that threat, which is the ideology. I have consistently asked members of Congress and the public to make sure that anybody who will be elected to office or appointed to office would understand that at the genesis of these terror activities, the jihadi terror activities, there is a clear view that there is an ideology. I've published 3 books on the issue, and I urge citizens and voters to make sure that in the agendas and platforms for any candidate of any political party, there would be an understanding, an identification of what I call the jihadi ideology. Arab countries have done it, European countries have done it, other international actors have done it. Still in the United States, after 17 years of warfare with the jihadists of ISIS, of Al-Qaeda, of Shabab, of many other formations or Islamist networks, we haven't been successful yet in identifying these ideologies. Ask these questions to the candidates of any political party. What is your position with regard to the Iran deal? And what is your position with regard to jihadi ideology? By doing so, we will ensure that we have a consensus in the legislative branch, the one we're going to elect in November, and that would avoid us a lot of problems in the future, regardless of who is going to win these elections. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.